5x5 up in here. And hello from northern Israel, where it is now sunny mostly. A little bit of clouds. There's a whole bunch of rain. What do you care about the weather? We're here to talk about crypto and the news and the markets. Why the news, Yasha? Because there's some funny things happening, among other things. So let's really quickly review what's happening that is of relevance. Not for trading specifically, but just for informational sake. So it's now day 4 of the presidency of Donald Trump, part deux, right? Since being reelected and sworn into office 4 days ago. And guess what's still happening? You know, the war in Ukraine with Russia is still happening. He said he would end it on day 1, folks. We've now passed day 1, day 2, day 3, and we're on day 4. Ain't no sign yet of that war ending. I'm just saying. Now, I realize it may take some time, and you could say, oh, you're just trolling. Say whatever you want. The guy promised day 1. In fact, he promised before he get in office it would end. That didn't happen. And when he was challenged on it, he relented because he realized how egregious his comment was when he claimed he could end the war before entering office. That was part of his whole campaign promise. So many people believed. Of course, he couldn't end the war before entering office. And he wasn't able to end the war on day 1, as he promised. So and again, it's not to hate on Trump specifically. Biden did a lot of things that he, or said a lot of things that he would do that he didn't do. Biden didn't deliver $15 minimum wage. Biden didn't deliver paid family leave. Biden didn't deliver Medicare or, health care for all, right? Like an improved version of Obamacare that would guarantee health insurance for absolutely everybody who's an American or in America and Americans overseas, as other countries do. Literally, the United States is the only country out of the entire industrialized nations in the world. The United States is the only one that does not provide health care for all of its citizens. And for all of the people in the country, by the way. Not just citizens, but if you're like a tourist or temporary resident or permanent resident, but you don't have a U.S. citizenship, right? Every other country, like if you live in Israel, you don't have to be Israeli to get health insurance. If you are covered by the governments, or at the same rate pretty much as Israelis. I don't know, maybe you pay a few extra shekels, but not a lot, right? If you are living in Belgium or France or England, Germany, anywhere, Italy, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, any of those countries, Japan, your healthcare is covered. There's no question about it. But for some reason, the United States, and we all know the reason, the pharmaceutical industry and the medical industry and the healthcare industry are gouging prices off of consumers and living high off the hog, because in the U.S. they get to do that because the politicians are all in their pockets, just like the politicians are in the pockets of many different industries. That's how they make their money, right? I mean, I've made it eminently clear. This is all about the haves and the have-nots. This is not about the left and right. This is not about conservative versus liberal. This is not about socialist versus libertarian versus whatever. Federalist versus, it doesn't matter, right? It's not Democrat and Republican. That's for sure. The fact that if you are aligned with a team, you are playing into the hands of those that will divide you. Now, that doesn't mean that when it comes to elections, you shouldn't vote. No, you should vote. if you have the ability to vote, you should vote. Because it's the one thing that at least is like a smidgen of your voice being included in something that happens in the public that may affect your life. Okay? You should vote if you have the ability to vote in an election. Why not? Now, does that mean you have to vote? Well, it depends where you live. If you live in Australia, you have to vote or you pay a fine, right? But if you live in other countries, you can choose not to decide. But then you still have made a choice, right? Just like the Rush song says. So, and yeah, it could be that your vote is to not vote for somebody if you live in a country where they allow that, right? And that's fine, That's also a type of vote, right? Beautiful old doggy here. What a sweet old dog. Hello. You gorgeous. Hello. Anyway, so my point is, right, that I'm not here to bash Trump or Biden or Harris or anybody that's ever come before or will be in a politician position in the future. Because, as I said many times, they all lie, cheat, and steal. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't hold them accountable to the things that they've said. We should, right? Otherwise, what's the point, right? Like, if they're just going to have power with no accountability, then why not just have anarchy? I mean, seriously, and I'm not a fan of anarchy. But if you're going to have people who are just in charge of a so-called democracy that people voted for, and there's no accountability for what they do, how is that any different than anarchy? Seriously, how is that any different than anarchy? It's not. It's the same thing. The only difference is that the people willingly submit themselves to not being as radical as those on top who got to the top by manipulating the system that exists in place. But they're just being anarchistic because they're abusing the rules to get to the top, right? Promising things that they know they can't deliver, not delivering them, and then staying in power without accountability. By the way, I could say the same thing about leaders in other countries, right? You can say things about like dictators like Assad or the king of Saudi, right? The former dictator Assad, or Vladimir Putin, or the king of Saudi Arabia, or the emir or whatever he's called of Qatar, or the guy who runs the UAE. Anybody who's a leader of any country who is unaccountable in any way, ultimately, for their actions, who's somehow above the law, you may as well call it anarchy, because that's all it really is. The fact that somebody has the power of the gun does not make it a benign system just because they call it some other system. Oh, it's an autocracy. Oh, well, it's an autocracy. Oh, it's a democracy. Oh, it's a democracy. But it's not a democracy. It's not an autocracy. They're not anything. They're just really anarchy by another name, right? Because here's the thing. There's this illusion that anarchy means absolute chaos everywhere all the time. That's actually not what it means, right? Anarchy means without government. What is government? Do you know? Govern, to rule, ment, the mind. Old Greek word. Government, to rule the mind. What is anarchy? Do you know? Anarchy is literally a narchy without a monarchy, without rulers. Oh yes, happy it's Thursday. So happy it's Thursday, indeed. So happy it's Thursday. Did you say happy sober Thursday? Well then, happy sober Thursday to you too. Congratulations. Over here, I just say so happy it's Thursday because hey, acronyms are fun. Yesterday I wrote an acronym for acronym. If you find my post on the Twitter or the Facebook or the LinkedIn, you'll see it. So yeah, there's war raging between Russia and Ukraine. There's the open AI war between OpenAI and Grok, which is Musk or Musk himself, not even Grok. All right, Sam Altman and Elon Musk are going at it on the Twitter, arguing about whether or not OpenAI's latest project called Stargate, which is supposed to be a $500 billion AI infrastructure project for the United States, right? And supposedly Sam Altman claimed to have received a bunch of funding already, and Elon Musk interjected saying, no, you don't have the funding yet, and you know it, and claimed to say he had like 10 billion of the money he wants. And Sam wrote back, no, you're wrong, and you know it. And they're bickering like a couple of old stupid billionaires would do. And they were doing it while, I mean, like literally the same day that Sam Altman was visiting the White House, and Elon was not invited to the meeting about OpenAI, which rings a lot like the day that Elon was not invited under the Biden administration for the conference about EVs. Elon sure seems to get left out of the parties that you'd think he'd be invited to. But he's annoying to some people, apparently. And when people have events, even when they're related to things you'd think he would naturally be a part of, or normally be a part of, because he's so heavily, visible in those specific industries, for some reason people don't invite him. I wonder why. I think it was a mistake not to invite him to the EV conference, but I can understand it. People just don't like to be around him very much, apparently. And the only people that really tolerate him, apparently, are the people he pays, like his employees or politicians, right? So think about that. I'm not saying he's a bad guy necessarily. He's just a person, and his way of doing things has led him to this point where he's extremely wealthy, but he also annoys people a lot. And not everybody likes to be around an annoying person. So you got the war in Russia, the war in Ukraine, really, with Russia. The war in the AI world between Sam Altman of OpenAI and Elon Musk of Twitter and Grok. You got the crypto wars. Don't forget about the crypto wars. What are the crypto wars? Well, you got a lot of back and forth about people getting ripped off by the Trump coin and the Melania coin. People losing millions of dollars, gambling money on DJT. When I say gambling money, they traded it with extremely high leverage because they're idiots. And they gambled their money instead of trading it in an intelligent way. So when an asset moves $5 and you lose $1.2 million as a result, you get done messed up. Especially because you're losing lagging information. But that's not their fault, maybe. They don't know about it. But it is their fault for gambling with their inherited money and losing it all because they made stupid trading decisions. So yeah, don't be that person. Is all I have to say about that. I'm going to keep this one short, folks. Have a good day.